Hello and welcome to the Zach Ratliff Show. I'm Zach. I'm glad to be with you today and glad you're with me. Talking to people worldwide these days, nationwide for sure, because that's inside the world. Anyway, I appreciate you all listening each and every day. I want to thank my sponsors, Mortgage Financial here in Texarkana, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org. All right, we're just going to run through some news stories that I've seen pretty much since yesterday, kind of update on some of those and rock and roll. I caught a little flack um, over Columbus Day, and some of it was in good humor, but I thought that was funny. So either way, a couple of you reached out to me and said, "Hey, thanks for calling it Columbus Day." That's what it is. Anyway, let's jump in. This is let's see who this was from. This is from Donald J. Trump on Truth Social, but then also U.S. Homeland Security News on X. Update reports that President Trump is preparing an executive order to temporarily suspend daylight savings time until Congress permanently ends it. Then Trump says the House and Senate should push hard for more daylight at the end of the day. Very popular, and most importantly, no more changing of the clocks. A big inconvenience for our government. Yeah, and I think that's standard time. Because if we fall backwards to standard time, then we'll gain more. And yeah, whatever that is, let's do that. Whatever we decide, let's just keep it there. Let's like I said, let's do that. Let's just have it. Let's run. Here's a crazy thing in the modern world we are. Everybody has devices that have little lights on them where there's and in the modern world in this well, and here's the deal. In the modern world, it's the only place we're worried about this anyway. If you're chasing snakes and eating them and stuff, you're not too concerned with what because here's the deal too. I said here's the deal like seven times, but here's the way it is too. There's gonna be however much daylight there's gonna be. If you want to call it whatever time it is, that's on you. Whatever we do with the clocks will not change the amount of daylight in the day, right? I mean, it's just that simple. Now, well, it's if I start my day or if we have kids standing out. I get it. I understand all those reasons. Also, we're not taking our motor carriage to school and work every day, right? I mean, half of you are waiting for 2 hours in the pickup line to pick up your baby. So you can not let them sit out in the cold. But in winter, it's still going to be the same amount of cold and dark. Just a wild deal. All right. Anyway, I hope they do that. Let's just get rid of daylight savings time or stick with it, whichever one works. Let's do that. Okay, this is from Johnny Maga on X.com. JB Pritzker is now threatening to prosecute ICE agents under the next Democrat president and says he's trying to find ways to do it now in Illinois. I hope they beat this drum to death. He says the tables will turn someday, and then Johnny Maga goes on to say this will be an official policy position of the 2028 Democrats, uh, and then he calls them communist thugs. I hope it is. I hope they go ahead and start it in 2026. We're gonna come and get our law enforcement. Please, please start saying that now. You could not wrap us a better gift. I better stop talking about it. Please come after the ICE agents and after administration officials who are enforcing the law. These are just lawless communists that maybe a common theme around here. I don't know if you've picked up on it, but it's all about power. Every day it's about power. Oh, thank God for Jesus. All right, let's see what we've got going here. Oh, yeah, this one's funny too. This is from Tony X2. on X.com says for 2 years, pro-Palestinian individuals were terrorizing colleges, assaulting people that didn't agree with them because they wanted a ceasefire. Well, that's happened thanks to President Trump. Where's the celebration? And I'll tell you where the celebration is. Well, this isn't what they wanted. They didn't really give them anything except for 2,000 terrorists back. They want their own nation, right? They want their own country. It's the same thing everywhere you go. We're gonna name a street after an imam. Well, now we want that neighborhood. Now we want an epic city like they're doing out in DFW. Now we want a whole state. Now you've got uh, imams in Italy saying, "Hey, we're gonna take over the country and the world." It's just like you kid. Yeah, can I have a piece of chocolate? Yeah, you know what? I'll give you one piece of chocolate. Oh, can I have another? Okay, I'll give you another. Well, just give me that candy bar. Well, can I just eat dessert first? Well, I don't want to eat. I just it never stops till finally you're like, hey, this has to stop. But we've been told about being politically correct and we don't want to hurt anybody. And nobody's worried about hurting our feelings, right? Nobody cares about our feelings, and that's okay. You don't have to. But we don't have to care about yours either. Anyway, so there's that. This is from CNN.com, and I even heard them talking some about it on Fox Business this morning. Um, Media outlets, including, and it says MAGA channels, and it's talking about Newsmax, and uh, but refused to sign the Pentagon's press access rule. And what Secretary of War Hegseth has done is just say, hey, you're not going to be roaming around the Pentagon talking to everybody that can give, um, you know, unnamed sources and leak information. We're going to have a system about it. There have been so many leaks coming out of the Pentagon that he's getting control over all this. And these news agencies are like, well, we're not going to sign that. We're going to do that. Okay, then don't report. I am okay with this. We need to protect our information. Now we do have a freedom of press, and the press can write whatever they want to write, and through legal means they can get access to whatever information they want to. But you can't just go be letting people leak our national security info. That's the goal of these commies is to be able to leak and then not be able to take credit for it and all that. So I'm good with this. CNN, obviously has the view of, oh, this is just overbearing government and da 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 da. Yeah, I get it. That's part of it. But anyway, good for you, Pete Hegseth. I know you were worried about my praise, so there you go. All right, here's this. Let's see. Let me see. I gotta get to my. Okay. I sent this to a couple people yesterday, so I'll just make sure I didn't talk about it on the show. ChristianPost.com. Conservative alternative to the United Methodist Church grows to 6,000 member churches. This is huge. This is a this is a big deal. And so it's the Global Methodist Church. I'm sure some of you have seen uh, churches in whatever area of the country you live in change their sign, and then a few months later, come on. This is in response to um, the United Methodist Church, basically changing the way they look at certain theology. This is in response to the church going more liberal. Even at my church, until some churches made the change around here, we were seeing people come in, and some of them wound up staying. That were I was like, hey, I didn't know you went to church. They're like, oh, we were at the UMC, and but with all their changes, we can't be a part of that. This is good to see. Going back to the Bible is key, right? Now, does that make me a saint? No. Yeah, we've all got stuff we're working on, but we can at least say, hey, this is where we want to be. This is what we need to go. So good for these churches for I'm glad to see this come. And this is just a shallow view inside of what's happening into our country. 6,000 Methodist churches have came out and said, "Hey, we're going to be more conservative. We're going to stick to our values." People around the country, just like I was talking about yesterday, Generation Z, Generation Alpha are coming. Well, Generation Z for sure coming out more conservative. Especially the guys, they're tired of being told that they can't hit the gym or they can't, be proud to be a man or all the things, right? So anyway, it's awesome. ChristianPost.com if you want to see that. Another one from ChristianPost.com. Uh, this is about Mexico. It's a wild deal here. This is by Christian Daily International, published on Monday. Drug cartels now rule 70% of Mexico. The kingdom of darkness is in this nation because our leaders are invoking deities they should not be invoking. And it goes on to say, it just goes on to talk about the evil of all this and the organized crime. But we've known that was there. 70% of the nation is ruled by drug cartels. I mean that's a wild, really, I don't know. That's a wild thing. But we know that the cartels are in the U.S., right? I think they say it's in all 50 states, but maybe it's the Continental 48. I can't remember how exactly that works. But they have tentacles that go into all of us. We need to be praying that our leaders, and thank God for Donald Trump and putting his foot down on this border. I mean, he's sealed it up. I'm sure there are one or two still getting through, but not in the numbers that were, right? And especially in Texarkana, coming up Highway 59. I mean, you've got the drugs for the whole eastern part of the country are coming through here. We see it all the time. Reports on how much drugs or whatever are picked up on US 59 or I-30 or any of the sort. So there we go. Okay, let's go to CNN.com. And then this is also on X.com under EYAKOBY. I don't know how to say that. Yel Yakobi. Um, CNN's Christine Amanpour, oh yeah, says the Israeli hostages probably have been treated better than the average Gazan because they are pawns and chips that Hamas had. Do what? First of all, there were no women returned, is my understanding. If there was, I'm wrong. But my understanding is there were zero, if very few, if any, women that were returned in this hostage deal. Why? Because they were all raped and murdered. But don't worry, they were treated better than the Gazans who were kept alive. Or we give back 2,000 terrorists, Israel. And you get what, 25, 23 alive back, and they're going to try to send some bodies back too? No, they weren't treated better. The sickness that runs through these liberals is maddening. Am I saying I agree wholeheartedly with everything Israel does? No. But am I saying, but I do believe, maybe I should say, that there has been an active, look, everything about this is negative. Everything you see from, oh, they're starving kids. And then when you read the rest of the story, it's like, well, actually, it's Hamas that's starving these kids. Oh, they're bombing hospitals. But Hamas puts their weapons base at the bottom of hospitals. It's amazing. Just the negative press that goes on around this. And then here's Christine Amanpour's like, oh, these Israeli hostages are treated better than the Gazan citizens. No, they're raped and murdered. And let's not forget what kicked this off. That's Hamas going into Israel, raping and beheading babies and children and women. Everybody always wants to yell Geneva Convention, Geneva Convention. They didn't qualify under that. Israel had every right to do whatever they wanted to them under international law. You're supposed to be dressed as a soldier. Yeah, it's just frustrating. All right, this funny moment. You all may have seen this morning or last night. Um, Hot Mike catches, and this from Eric Doherty. If you're not following him on X, you should. A Hot Mike catches the interaction between President Trump and Canada Prime Minister Carney. And I guess when Trump was talking about him, he called him President Carney. And Carney says, "I'm glad you upgraded me to president." And then Trump said, "Oh, did I say president? At least I didn't call you the governor." And then they both laugh about it, right? And this is when they were over in Egypt for the signing of this peace deal between uh, Palestine, the Palestinians, and Israel, right? Hamas and Israel. All these Arab leaders, all these world leaders were there, shaking Trump's hand, taking pictures with him, wanting to be seen with him. Yet we're told this guy was going to bring instability to the world. I've said it time and again, a weak executive in the United States government leads to a chaotic world. A strong executive leads to a strong world, a safe world. I saw yesterday um, that the U.S., the top 5 air forces in the world, by countries or organizations. Number one, the United States Air Force. The next largest air force by any country or anyone else is the U.S. Navy. Okay, number three, the third largest air force in the world was Russia. I think it was Russia. The fourth largest air force in the world was the U.S. Army, and the fifth largest air force in the world were the Marines. A weak executive creates chaos around the world because currently we, you know, regulate everything. I'm not saying that's right or it's wrong. I'm just saying a weak executive, um, a weak executive is a problem. So there's that. All right, let's move on. My notes reset. Hold on. Okay, so Glenn Beck comes out, and this is on his X feed. Glenn Beck, he said the FBI showed up to my house to discuss my TV shows exposing Antifa's network. You should go listen to him talk about this. What in a negative way? And he's just saying Cash Patel and the team over there. Once Glenn laid out how Antifa's being funded, they came and they wanted to know. They're actually digging into these things. We're actually seeing progress, but it takes some time. You have to understand. Um, that as the last team was leaving, they were hiding stuff and making it harder for the current administration to have any traction. They did everything they could to make their job harder when they got there. They talk about a peaceful transfer of power. That didn't happen. They sabotaged it in every way, which is probably some of the reason why y'all hadn't seen the Jeffrey Epstein files because they were sabotaged. You think these people don't play by that we know don't play by any rules all of a sudden come out and go, "Oh, okay. We're leaving. Here's everything we've got." And we didn't tamper with it at all. It's a crazy thought to even have. Of course they tampered with it. Of course they added information that wasn't there. Of course they sabotaged it. Well, everything about them says that they would. Right? They tried to kill Trump twice, killed Charlie Kirk. Everything, let me just say, from my studio, I overlook a parking lot. And like all parking lots, it has aisles or rows that you can drive down. And the place where I never understand why someone gets out of the lane that you drive in and then swerves in and then drives across every parking lot. I don't even know how some of these idiots got their driver's license. It's really frustrating for me. On the radio, I used to do a segment called Driving in Texarkana, and it was whoever made me mad driving to the radio studio that morning. I just don't have as far to drive now, or I'd do it again. Um, just drive across the parking lot, and I'm talking about wide open. You wonder how little kids and stuff get ran over in parking lots. See these people driving like it's nobody's business. Golly. Anyway, go watch that Glenn Beck article or read about it on X.com about how the FBI is changing. It's amazing. All right, here it is. Eric Doherty again, X.com breaking. President Trump just boarded Air Force One en route to the White House. This is last night. He's expected to get back this morning sometime after midnight. This guy works. He works in ways, eh, and I'm sure it was a shock to the system, and you read about it right after this Trump administration came back in, where Joe Biden had about 3 solid hours of work each day, and then they auto pinned everything else, and aides just kind of came and went as they want. Donald Trump works. I think what's he sleep like 4 hours a night? I'm sure he rested on the plane and all that. Oh, there goes another idiot moving across the parking lot. Yeah. I wish they would listen to this show just so they knew I saw them. Maybe they do. Don't drive across parking lots like that. Okay, Laura Loomer, X.com. This morning at no, yesterday at lunch at 12:06. Egypt's president has just awarded President Trump the Order of the Nile, Egypt's highest state honor. Oh, but the world's not going to like him. Once again, they respect him. They might not like him, but that's okay. Now, once again, the Republicans are full of hate and just need to calm down their rhetoric. And as is shown on X.com, when Chuck Schumer was doing an interview on MSNBC yesterday, he said, and quote, Senator, let's see, there it is. People should be, quote, forcefully rising up. What? Not a Democrat calling for violence. How else can you interpret forcefully rising? But don't worry, the Republicans are hateful. The Republicans are the one calling uh calling for violence. Except for it's the Democrats calling for it every time. And mainstream Democrats. I'm not talking about some, you know, some whacked out somebody somewhere that it's of no value or importance. Well, I mean, we all have value. But maybe, listen, liberals, don't get your feelings hurt over me saying somebody doesn't have value. I see your messages. I see your messages. Let's see. Oh, here it is. It says this is talking about what Trump did in 24 hours. Okay, when I was talking about his work ethic, and this is the one I thought was going to be put up. This is from Rapid Response 47 on X.com. In the past 24 hours, as the hostages were freed in the peace deal he brokered. President Trump, these are all the things he did in 24 hours. Flew to Israel, spoke to the press, met with the Israeli leaders, spoke to the press, met with families of the hostages, delivered an hour-long speech to the Knesset, which is um, the legislature of Israel, did an interview, flew to Egypt, met with the Egyptian president, spoke to the press, took photos, and chatted individually with dozens of world leaders, signed the historic Gaza peace deal, delivered another speech, met privately with world leaders, flew back to the United States. That's one day. That's a month of Joe Biden schedules. Oh, even that's what they even said after that debate. Oh, he was tired from flying back across the world. It showed Donald Trump getting on Air Force One and answering questions from the press. Lord protect that man in the name of Jesus. Then here's what's really going to kill him. This is from once again from Eric Doherty. Breaking: President Trump national approval rating surges 9 points at 51%. He has 90% negative media coverage, and he's still 51% view him favorably. We just have to keep talking about it. You have to keep talking to your friends about it. You have to keep telling people about it. That's where we need to be. Okay. Mhm. That's where we need to be. We can't be afraid to talk about this anymore because we're losing our country over it. All right, everybody. That's the end of my notes for today. I hope God blesses each and every one of you. And look, once again, This stuff doesn't overwhelm me. Don't let it overwhelm you. I enjoy this stuff. I enjoy being engaged. I enjoy being informed about everything. But I know I have peace in the fact that in the end, Jesus is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. No matter what, he wins in the end. It doesn't mean it has to be fun now, but it's worth the payoff. I hope God blesses each and every one of you, and we'll do it all again